Hello, and welcome back to another stream of Tatarigoroshi. Well, Higurashi Tatarigoroshi. Probably the final stream, since this should end this one. So it has been going on longer than I thought it would already. Not in a negative way, though. This is might be my favorite chapter for now. Although it's also has some heartbreaking aspects to it. The mind-bending, twisty things as something I really like at the end here. Since when? Let me just be here. Since I think about 9 to 11. Yeah, I think chapters 9 to 11 have been peak, so to say. Let me give a quick summary here, I think last time we did chapter 10 and 11, which was the chapter of the main character committing murder, the murder of Satoko's uncle, and chapter 11, the main character finding out apparently he was at the shrine while he was doing the murder. The uncle is not dead, and he is possibly going crazy. I'll be honest, I am not sure how the fuck to explain this discrepancy. I have come out with about four general theories. Just to quickly summarize them. Number one, the whole village is somehow gaslighting the shit out of him, including Satoko. I have no idea why. The fuck they would be doing that. I have no idea how none of the cops would have noticed the main character not being there at the festival, but everyone claiming that they are. But the whole village is gaslighting everyone, including the main character, that he's totally still alive, the uncle, and possibly went to dig up the body and move it. That could make sense. I don't think it's likely. It's pretty crazy, but it's possible. Theory 2. Main character has gone crazy, or has been crazy, or is mentally ill. Coach kind of brought it up last time, and I've been thinking about it, and you know what? That would check out. What we've seen how we've seen him behave in chapter 1, some parts of chapter 2 after things have gone really crazy, and from this chapter, I would legitimately buy it if you told me that the main character has gone crazy or has mental issues. I would find it pretty despicable from the game if it did that, and the POV was that unreliable that the actual main character was doing something totally different while the main character himself was away. Well, we saw what it was doing, but I guess it's possible. Theory 3 is a bit weird, kind of similar to Theory 2, and it is connected to those injections we saw people use. Essentially, it would be, I know, drugs, I guess. Either people are injecting people with drugs that cause hallucinations, stuff like that, in Himizawa, or there is something, I know, the water or whatever, that causes hallucinations for people that are not of Hinamizawa. And the injections that we saw were actually like the cure, the vaccine, whatever you want to say. And our main character was affected in chapter 1 and 3 with this, I don't know, groundwater hallucinogen. And possibly Mion was in chapter 2? Or maybe we're still in chapter 2 and, we hallucinated most of the stuff there. The last theory 4, would be essentially, I'm going to just call it the storyteller theory. Essentially, we are not really watching this from the POV of the main character as this is happening, but we are watching this essentially, well, we are technically, we're reading a story of the events that happened here as it was told by, I know, the people of the village, with the main character as the POV character. And as such, everything is unreliable because it is what the villagers essentially said had happened here. But possibly only. So everything here would kind of only have nuggets of truths between, well, commonalities between episodes, I guess. That one would be the craziest. Would be as crazy as the others, I guess. But would kind of fit somewhat to what the previous game, well, not the previous game, what the next game, Umineko, did. Kinda. But I might just be reading too much into it. Anyway, those are my possible theories for right now. Of course, I guess could say it's magic. Demons could be real. Magic could be real. The god and its magic could be real. I'm just gonna say no and leave it at that. You're not getting me today, Beatrice. But in seriously, if it is just magic, then I will just be like, eh. I am at least looking at this from the lens that the mystery is real and can be solved. And if it's just magic, I would just not really think that's the case. All right, that's it for now. Let's get into the game. Let's continue. I've switched the music already, as I do every stream. Now it's the old one. And I think we should only have 2 chapters. Hopefully it won't be too long chapters. Let's hope I can finish before hour 3 of the stream. Oh yeah, we just ended with our main character trying to dig up the body. The police arrived. They were rough at him. They tried to dig up the spot where main character dug. There was no body there. Presumably moved, or again, main character crazy. Nothing happened. The body wasn't there. The police didn't arrest me because of that, but I didn't know how to feel happy about it. Just like Satoko had said, I'd failed to kill her uncle. Oh, and I wonder if Coach will do something because of all the crazy stuff we previously said. The body wasn't there, so I was forced to conclude as much, no matter what strange natural disaster, coincidence, or miracle it might have implied. In order to free Satoko, I became a demon. And this abnormal world was my reward, yet metaphorically, I had fallen into the demon world. But if that price had been exchanged for the life of Satoko's uncle, then that would have been fine. And Satoko's uncle was still alive, still shackling her to him. I need to become a demon once again. One more time. Not as many times as it took. I would kill that man over and over until Satoko was liberated. Had already awoken. I looked at the clock to see that it was early in the morning at just about 5. It was already light outside. Once I'd had my resolve to become a demon again, I could feel my whole body teeming with the awakened power once more. Time was an issue. No matter what I'd do it. Got myself up. The exhaustion from the past 2 days was completely set away. I didn't even feel sleepy anymore either. Slowly rose and made sure my body was moving like I wanted it to. I could feel the blood flowing through each and every one of my fingers. As I got dressed, I let my mind wander and had a strange thought. These 2 days, while I've said it was for Satoko's sake, the only thing on my mind has been killing. I've said it was for Satoko, but while actually carrying out the act, we completely forgot about Satoko, albeit only temporarily. Maybe initially it was for Satoko's sake. Now I was just a demon, killing for the sake of killing. As a result, I'd sunk into a world fit for such a demon. Maybe it was the same for Satoshi. He resolved himself to kill his aunt to save Satoko, became a demon, and disappeared from the sunlit Hinamizawa, vanishing into the demon world. Which meant that, after all was said and done, I'd met the same fate as him. I tried to avoid making the same mistakes, but it happened anyway. Which meant that maybe Satoshi was here. Satoshi had came to this world a year before me, so he would be here somewhere. Then, surprised, I stopped walking. There was a second step of footsteps I'd grown so used to hearing.
お前
Uh,
ひょっ
could
と
you
して
be Satoshi?
サ
The
トシ
emptying
なのか
lifeless air wouldn't give me an answer, but I felt a strange kind of relief. There was someone there. The Satoshi had stuck with me the whole time. Let's go, Satoshi. Once more. This time, we will set Satoko free for sure. Quietly slipped out of the house so my parents wouldn't notice. If they caught me now, when I'd been out way too late for two days now, they'd give me a really angry talking to. I didn't have time to allow for that to happen. Today I would put an end to it. If the dead body disappeared, then I didn't have to bury it. I could just burn it to ashes and then take them with me, so I could kill again every time he resurrected. I'd do it again. I'd kill him again. And this time I'd set her free. I saw the morning light was so beautiful as to stagger belief. Went to the storage room to find weapons with which I could kill him for sure. Blunt or not, it didn't matter to me. Right now, I didn't need to care whether someone saw me or if the police came. This world has gone crazy after all. A world where I'd shown up to the festival and had fun even though I wasn't there. Even if the police arrested me, I'd probably end up going right back home as if nothing had happened. Yeah, that sounds like a mentally stable person. Mentally stable way of thought. Why? Seems a bit quiet. Did I accidentally... Yes. Both me and that other Keiichi, even with me, he'd fill in. I could vanish from Hinazawa without anyone noticing. So basically, I didn't care if I was mistaken and killed. Even if I died, Keiichi would remain. After all, this isn't the world I belong in. If I was going to be killed, mistaken for Satoko's sake, then that was just part of my duty as Sandini. As those desperate thoughts became serious, the morning air felt more refreshing to me, strangely enough.
これは
Oh,
怖いな
this one's scary.
こいつにするか
Let's go with this. It was a hatchet made for chopping thick firewood. Yay, hatchets! Its hefty steel blade was sinister, almost as though it was a tool meant for killing people. Couldn't exactly take it out in a public like that, so I wrapped it in a little in some old newspaper and tossed it into a basket on my bike. Yeah, that will totally work.
連日
So if we're using you for evil all the time, I'll need you again today. My legs. Hauled to my bike for some reason. For the past 3 days, I've only used it for dangerous things. Been riding this bike ever since I lived in my old town. Walked most places I wanted to go, so I hadn't used it all that much. My mom had bought it for me when I entered cram school, thinking it would be a convenient way to get to the station since it was far away. So I'd always used it to go back and forth from cram school. I'd only ever put textbooks and class material in the front basket too. That seems kind of silly. And you probably keep it in a backpack, otherwise you'd get there and you have to like carry them all inside. Maybe if you had put it in a backpack and then in the basket? Backpack in the basket? Oh well. I'd never tried to put a hatchet that I'd be using to kill someone in here. I hope so. When I came to Hinazawa, life finally felt fun. I met the best friends ever and had some of the greatest times ever. Those times might have been shattered now, but it was my greatest wish that I could get them back, even if I had to risk my life to do it. That's how fun those times had been. I killed someone. And now I was at it again, needing to kill someone. Murder was a crime. Correct. I didn't believe that people should ever think murder was okay. Correct. But still, the times I had were enjoyable enough for me to commit such a crime. My friends were irreplaceable, and the time spent with them a treasure. Hanging out, laughing, sometimes tricking each other, but always in a friendly way. I didn't fear committing any crime as long as it was for the sake of taking back those times that gave my heart so much pleasure. That gave my heart so much pleasure. Yes, this was a value I decided to uphold. It wasn't something I learned from a school teacher. It was a noble path that I chose for myself. I thought back to when I'd first come to Himizawa. But how on the very first day, Stocko had welcomed me via a blackboard eraser with a rock in it. That welcome really surprised the heck out of me. She would laugh, get angry, cry. She was never boring. She was obviously the most childlike one among us, but she was actually lively, full of vim and vigor, and good at meddling in other people's businesses. Then, that went for Mion, Rena, and Rika-chan too. Wasn't Stocko the one at the center of everyone's laughing and banter? Was she? Sadako would try to look cool. Then Mion would make fun of her endlessly. Then Sadako would cry, which would put Rena in a state of ecstasy. Rika-chan would be greatly delighted. And I happened to get mixed up in it. Would always fool around like that. It was lonely when someone wasn't around, but if I had to name one for whom it was the worst, it would have been Satoko. Smile was everyone's smile. Ever since she stopped smiling, so did the rest of us. As for the rest of us, not smiling was the same as dying. It was just like when I was silently going to scram school every day, just to maintain my unchanging test scores. So basically, we're nothing when she wasn't smiling. She was full of hot air, but she was our princess, cute and unhateable. In that case, I was her knight, searching for the dragon's castle in order to win her smile back. Yeah, dude. Knights, of course, use swords. The awesome two-handed kinds. I'm probably the only knight in history of the world to be taking someone on with a thick, rusty hatchet. Yeah, probably not. But also, yeah, main character, sure, try to justify this again. I swear, he's just the master at, well, failing and then deciding, you know what, let's throw precaution to the wind. Do the stupid thing. You really should have waited a few days for things to calm down, try to get the uncle again in some kind of trap or something like that. Oh well. I saw an old person in a ridge of a field waving to me. Oh my! Hey, chicken! Out for a morning ride, I see. Good morning! Reflexively waved back in a refreshing way. Should I really have been feeling so happy waving like that? Tako's house would be right past this road, going beyond the rice paddies. The Skylas had woken up too. The next thing I knew, I was the audience to the daily chorus. Gave myself a hit or two in the head and drove away my merry morning mood. Took a deep breath, then tilted my head back, quelling my pointless excitement. Body wasn't there. Its absence either meant my killing him had been an illusion or that I'd killed him and he'd risen from the dead. Or you killed the wrong person, or you go crazy. If I was at a festival, then maybe I should have considered it an illusion. Coach probably thought the same way, which is why he treated me like a lunatic. But it being an illusion was just impossible. I killed him without a doubt. Without a doubt. If it had been an illusion, then that would make all of Himizawa's in right now an illusion. If that was the case, then here's how it would end up. I was actually in a vegetative state due to a traffic accident and I was currently dreaming in a hospital bed. How about how great it would be to spend time with the friends in rice paddies like these. That was a terrifying thought, though. If this was an illusion, then the only possible answer was that he'd resurrected. It would make him a literal monster. But if he was a monster, then I was no less than a monster myself. I didn't hesitate to kill someone, and I would even wield curses. I could. Takano-san had died probably because I'd cursed her. Or maybe that was a little much. If Goto and Oishi died too, then I'd curse them like I'd cursed them to yesterday, then I'd believe it. Whew. I set my bicycle aside and went to take a look. His motorbike wasn't here. Of course it wasn't. I sent it drowning to hell the night throwing it into the Onagafuchi swamp. Or maybe, just like how the corpse wasn't here, maybe the motorbike didn't get thrown into the swamp either. The fact that his bike wasn't here might have been because he had gone to town and come back, not necessarily because I'd thrown it into the swamp. If her uncle wasn't around, then that was convenient on its own. Then I would just show myself in, then wait for him to return, sharpening my hatchet. If he was there, forgotten sensations come back to my gut. Feeling of tension rose within me. The sensation was like poison, stunning my actions, but it could also be the trigger to allow me to awaken to my superhuman, otherworldly self. I held the hatchet still wrapped in newspaper. Its weight in my hands was profound, sinister, and reliable. I hadn't put on my watch, so I didn't know what time it was, but it was probably still a little before 7. Sadako would probably be awake, preparing breakfast and her lunch, but her uncle would probably still be lazing around in bed. A guy like him probably would have stayed up late drinking, probably always slept until noon. I considered ringing the doorbell and having Stoko open the door for me, but if her uncle woke up at the sound, I'd waste my chance and of him still being asleep. If Stoko saw me sneaking inside without ringing the doorbell, she'd be surprised. If I ran into her, what would I say? I've come to kill your uncle with you, so stay quiet. No, I couldn't do that. That would be like making Sadako responsible for his death. Be quiet and go wait outside. Maybe that would do it. How would Satoko react to that? Probably try and get me to give up on killing him. I would have to lie somehow to get her to go outside. Satoko didn't need to know that a murder was going to occur in the house. I couldn't quite think of a good lie to tell her. I couldn't do much just staying around like this. Made up my mind and grabbed the doorknob. Then slowly turned it and pulled. It was unlocked. I'm almost expecting him to already be dead and to Satoko have done it. The gaps between the door and the wall steadily grew larger. Chain wasn't even on. The oppressive smell of life in Satoko's house hit me. The entrance there were a few pairs of shoes and sandals. I couldn't tell whether he was here or not just by looking at them. Could hear a television on somewhere. Yeah, that is a mess. Television was in a messy dining room. There was food scattered about the table, giving an impression decidedly different from a happy family's mealtime. Meals were for eating food while thanking the person for making it. Suddenly, my language skills disappeared. Meaning, whatever occurred in this dining room wasn't a meal. Nobody in sight. No sign of anyone either. The television on, he must have been close. Could he have anticipated my coming and be hiding, waiting for me? The tension I felt was so thick, so tight, that I thought it would choke me. The newspaper wrapping the hatchet's thick blade didn't hamper its power at all. I tightened my grip on it, then very carefully took a look around. Where had those peaceful feelings from before I arrived here gone? Even the sound of, of sweat bubbling up on my brow got on my nerves. And then I looked at the table and realized something. This wasn't breakfast. The grains of bottled rice were all hard and dried up. Then, was it last night's dinner? I left the dining room, kept vigilant, went down the hallway, and found the stairs to the second floor. When the man was playing with his friends, he looked out of the second story window. It was highly possible the room was his own, that he slept there. I tiptoed up to the edge of the stairs, quietly climbing without making a sound. I couldn't hear any kind of snoring. I didn't hear anything up there. I went through a few doors and slowly quietly opened the paper doors, checking inside. But I still couldn't find anyone around. To search more effectively, I got down on the floor and pressed my ear right next to it. I could hear the television in the dining room and a low hum, perhaps of boiling water. It was then that I started to harbor some feelings of suspicion. This house wasn't right. It seemed like people had been here. The TV was on, but it wasn't normal for someone to be around this early in the morning. I silently descended the stairs and went back to the dining room. Looked at the food scattered around. Completely dried up rice, an overturned bowl of miso soup, a package for a side dish brought at a supermarket. But tell Satoko had definitely been the one who had made this. The food was far from Mion's perfection or Rena's gentleness, but it was sincere. Judging by how she cooked for me at my house, and from the type and amount of side dishes, I deduced that the meal was from last night. The numbers stamped into the food package read 0830620, June 20th, 1983. That was yesterday. And there was food for two, which meant that last night's dinner and Satoko's uncle would have been here then. Stop it, Keiichi. Don't even think about saying the word impossible again. Anyway, her uncle was here last night. That much was the truth. He had fought fault with Satoko's food, found fault, thrown the bowl of miso soup, and flung the rest everywhere. Deep within, my feelings of calm and composure was lit a flame of anger and of curse. Should I have ever shown this man any mercy? Bump. I heard the sound again, the one from before, like a water boiler. What was it coming from? The first floor? But where? The bathroom, maybe? I could hear some noise coming from the other side of the frosted glass, the far end of the changing room. Had to have been the sound of boiling water for the bath. We were about to find a body. Steam was enshrouding the glass door, and the heat that it was leaking into the changing room where it was standing too. My misgivings deepened. People didn't normally take a bath this early in the morning. If one did, then it would mean that in this house, time had stopped ever since some moment last night. Whistle, whistle, whistle. Was it being reheated? The water boiler in the bathroom been active this whole time. I checked in a clothing basket and Satoko's familiar uniform stuffed in it. Uniform had stains and dried rice stuck to it. Certainly not something she could wear today. It was probably from the miso soup at the dinner table yesterday. I looked hard at the frosted glass, but I couldn't see anything about all the steam. And then an electric surge ran through my mind, and a terrible premonition came over me. Could she? She couldn't possibly have been in there since last night. That would be impossible. But no, in Mizawa right now, nothing was impossible. Stopped audibly, then quietly pulled aside the glass door. Hot, steaming air burst out of the slight opening. The fan wasn't on in the changing room, but went completely white with steam. Just as the hot vapor poured in from the changing room, cold air also flowed into the room with the bath. And I just heard, due to being hit by the air, a very weak moan. That was all I needed to know who it was. Satoko! No answer. Satoko was in a bathtub surrounded by a thick layer of rising steam. The top half of her body was leaning over the edge of the tub and she was passed out. The water boiler kept on making a whistling noise as if angered. I could see the glass flame through a small window. It was roaring at full force, completely blue. Satoko's entire body was boiled red, flaccid as though her bones had melted away. It was almost like a doll as she lay there unconscious. I wasn't sure how many seconds had passed as I stared in complete bafflement. I came back to my senses and promptly shut off the boiler. Then I dragged Satoko's small body out of the bathtub. The water in it was as hot as water in public baths. It was in boiling water the entire night. She'll die, she'll die. His body was lighter than expected, so I laid her on the floor and wrapped her in a towel. Went back to the boiler room and opened up the vent, creating a path of cool air to breeze come through. Upon the breeze hitting her, Satoko moaned again. You're right, Satoko. It's me, Keiichi. Can you understand? Can you hear me? Keiichi. Satoko recognized me and muttered in response, but I couldn't tell what she was saying. Her eyes were muddy and unfocused. I could tell she wasn't completely unconscious. From close inspection, her limbs and waist were twitching slightly. This was way worse than normal overheating. This was dangerous. Don't they call this a heat stroke? Think, what would a teacher do if a girl passed out in the middle of summer doing a marathon in a gym class or something? Turned the water faucet in the kitchen all the way on and soaked a towel in it. Then I hit the cold towel and pressed on Satoko's forehead. To correct harsh the coldness left out a muffled voice. For burns, right. Would soak the burn spot under running water. Then, could I run cold water in the shower and cool her off like that? No. If it was that sudden, I wouldn't be good for her half. She'd go into shock. Need to read. I think I read that once before. This is was about as much nursing as I could possibly give her. Then anything more than this would be too much. For the likes of an amateur. What happened, Satoko? You're alright now. Unini will save you for sure. 5039. 5 what was Satoko reciting on her breath? Brought my ear to her mouth. Better make out the mysterious spell-like words she kept saying. That moment I understood what they were for. Satoko, you're counting? Why? People tell little kids in the bath to count to 100 a lot, right? Satoko was counting like that. And 5039. You moron. How long were you supposed to count in your own bathtub? 10,000. Without my ears and counted with common sense. 10,000? You're a freaking idiot. What kind of dumbass can count to 10,000? There's no fucking way you could do that. You bored to death before you even get that far. Why were you... My uncle. Last night her uncle flew in a rage at dinner and she'd made, saying it stunk and was inedible. Satoko didn't understand what on earth he meant. It wasn't much different from what she usually made for him. Maybe hated the smell of pickled vegetables she'd bought in particular. My uncle then decided the stink was originating from Satoko and shouted at her that she never ever took baths. And then he put Satoko in a boiling water and told her not come out until she counted 2. I'll kill you. Snapped and exploded. Raising the newspaper hatchet, I stamped through the house. Call the hospital! I searched for anything traces, signals, smells, vibration, heartbeats. With a war cry, I raced up the stairs in such force I could have stomped a hole through them. Then I found the foot in a room, thought to be her uncle's. Well aware he wasn't sleeping in, I bashed it with a hatchet. Did he run into the closet? Okay, he's doing this again. I'll bust the entire closet down, and if he's not there, maybe the secret door, any switches or levers. Smash the walls. Dust into the air, broke pieces scattered on the floor. Broke the fucking window. After I destroyed everything beyond recognition in her uncle's room, my reason finally kicked in and expressed my emotions. Uncle was in the house right now. I'd have to leave killing him until later. Right now, I have to do something about Satoko. Went back to the changing room. Satoko was still lying limp on the floor. There was nothing more than amateur me can do. Need to take her to the clinic. Coach had treated me like a lunatic yesterday, tried to lock me up in a mental hospital. I never wanted to see that damn face again, but I still need to go to the infirmary one more time. I need to have a doctor look at Satoko. I thought about putting her in the dirty uniform lying in the laundry basket, but I had no experience dressing someone, so it would be pretty difficult. Shit, I don't have time to be wasting here. When she gave up clothing her and decided to carry her in her bath towel, the clinic was close to Satoko's house. It would be way faster to carry her there than call 119 and get an ambulance. Threw the biggest towel I could find over her and prompted her to stand. Can you stand? I'll carry you over to the clinic. Thank you. The words sounded clearer than before. She was starting to come back. My tears of relief just knowing she'd improved even a little bit. Tuka turned over so she was lying on her face and put on a weak struggle to get up on her knee. Quickly swept her up and put her on my back. The towel put her on seemed like it was about to fall off. The towel, it hurts. We'll be there soon. It won't be long, so stay strong. It didn't hurt one bit to carry Satoko, so she was light, too light. The lightness actually made me uneasy. Outside, I had gotten hotter, as though eager to attack Satoko. Fucking cicadas. Why did I have to choose this morning to get so hot out? Didn't have time to swear at them. The clinic was this way. Poison stuck on my back, I broke into a trot. The hilly roadside to the clinic, with which I had never had difficulties before, was now torturous. Big beads of sweat formed on my brow, and at some point my breath had grown faint. The hatchet in my belt was heavy and made it hard to walk. Drop the damn thing! I considered leaving it, but I couldn't let it go. At least not while Satoko's uncle was still breathing. The signboard of the eerie clinic came to sight. I quickly noticed something was odd, so I stopped. Several red revolving lights were flashing at the clinic. 3 police cars were parked in the parking lot with their lights on. There didn't need to be much else to inform me that something had happened. Didn't want to see Coach, so I planned to leave Satoko in the clinic waiting room. Give the receptionist a message. With the police officer Oishi here, I couldn't go inside so carelessly. What's going on? Why are there so many police cars? Gently put Satoko down, the shade of a thicket. I don't know. I'll go see what happened. So you stay here for a moment. Are you fucking kidding me? Being a lady in a place like this where nothing but a battle is simply unforgivable. If you can still fire off those insults, you'll be fine. Be right back. Fucking carry her to the hospital! Who gives a fuck there's police officers there? Drop the axe too. I hid myself behind a car and got close to the officers grouped at the clinic entrance. We heard an officer wearing a necktie, probably their leader, and a white-robed doctor having a discussion about something. The doctor doesn't seem to be Coach. It was one of those who Coach told to make the tea yesterday. You're the first one to find it since you were on morning duty. But then, what did it look like? He was sitting on the sofa in the head office. He looked like he was taking a nap. There was a jug and an empty bottle of sleep medication on his desk, so he immediately thought that he had tried to commit suicide with it. What else? His high temperature and dilated pupils indicated a severe disturbance of consciousness. Seems like a typical case of sleeping pill poisoning. So immediately began to treat him. Without calling the police or an ambulance, this is a hospital and I'm a doctor. And since his life was in danger, it's my job to treat him at once. Yes, I understand. Okay, what else? Breathing was in a disarray, so I put him on a respirator. Also administered breathing stimulants. Had no effect, so I prepared a medical ventilator and... Right. In other words, you did what you could, but it wasn't enough. That's right, isn't it? Reported this as soon as he died. Yes. It was very unfortunate that we were unable to save him. Radio in, one of the police cars started to buzz, producing a broken mechanical voice. It's HQ. Yume-san, can you hear me? Hello, this is Komiya. Come up with something. Looks like you committed suicide while sleeping pills. No notes or anything. Suicide? What the heck was he talking about? Someone had tried committing suicide in clinic, but who? Coach? Wish Taka was dead and she died the next day. And yesterday I wish Coach was dead. Then, could he have... He used sleeping medication regularly? I don't really know. Did he normally complain that he was tired or wanted to die? Well, Irie Sensei was normally so well himself. He never acted like that. So I was right. Irie Sensei. They were talking about Coach. Coach killed himself. Why would he do that? There couldn't have been any reason he wanted to die. The only reason that came to mind was that he wanted him dead. That I wanted him dead. This world was insane. Wanted someone to die, they'd die. That was the kind of world this was. And what about Oishi? What happened to him? People really died because I wanted them to, that something should have happened to him too. Send you back up. The chief wants you to leave the rest of them and get back to searching for Oishi's car. Yes, sir. Please excuse me then. Looks like we're getting relieved here. So please leave everything as it is right now. Alright, let's go. Police nodded and split up into patrol cars. They just searched for Oishi's car. Searching for his car. That meant he had gone missing. Takono-san, Coach, Oishi. When I wished for it, the very next day, they disappeared. No matter how angry you were when you said you wished for someone dead, it didn't normally happen. Era knew just wishing for it wouldn't make them dead. That's why people could utter such curses so lightly. When the curses are true were now being granted. At the time I hadn't even been walking, and yet tap. Heard her footstep. It wasn't only one this time. Tap, tap, tap. They came from behind. They stood right behind me, reaching a hand for my shoulder. Would you mind telling me what's going on? Satoko, don't scare me like that. I'm scared one here. I preferred if you didn't shout so suddenly. It was Sadako. Her eyes were still unstable and focused, and she seemed unable to at least walk on her own. She looked far better now compared to her early exhausted state. How do you feel? Better? My head still hurts, but I can't stay outside looking like this forever. Her smile showed courage, but her legs were still shaky. Anyway, what on earth is going on? What I just heard the police talked about Coach apparently committed suicide. Eh? It was a loss for words. Her face grew paler and paler, and I could tell she was doubting her own ears. Keiichi-san, that true? I don't mishear you? That's what I heard. They said Irie Sensei killed himself by sleeping pills. Sadako went down on her knees and broke in tears. It can't be. Coach, he would never kill himself. As I watched Sadako crying at the grass, I felt something tap by guilt and remorse. I got so angry that Coach was treating me like a madman yesterday, that he'd betrayed me, that I thought he'd better off dead. But even Coach, who to me deserved to die, still must have had people who loved and respected him. Like Satoko here. My selfish, egoistical anger, I wished for his death. It was granted. And now Satoko was crying hysterically as a result. Guilt tore at my heart. It worked myself up to murder for Satoko's sake. Besides, I wanted Satoko to be happy. But was that really all it took? Oh hey, we murdered a bot. Yay! Murder meant taking someone's life. It didn't make everyone attached to that person sad. In Satoko's uncle's case, of course, nobody would be sad. So it didn't feel like a sense of guilt. But Coach's death was different. I had wanted to make Satoko happy. That resulted in me inflicting a deep sadness upon her, hadn't it? But Coach killed himself. It wasn't my... Hick. Satoko had stopped crying, but she seemed like a little calmer now. Wiping her tears, she stood up. I'm sorry. The only thing I could say to her was an apology. Why are you apologies? Yesterday I got into a fight with Coach, and I thought I wanted him to die. I wanted it so he really... Satoko looked at me dubiously for a few moments. Eventually her expression softened and interpretation my own in her own way. It isn't your fault, Keiichi-san. Coach was on doubt too. Felt like there was something he had to give his life for. Chose to do so after a lot of worrying and suffering. Not anyone's fault. She smiled a little, trying to comfort me. I do not want to be like this forever. I want some clothes. Are you okay? Shouldn't you be here at the clinic? I won't die for putting on clothes before going. Then I adjusted her bath towel and started back along the path. The side was wobbly and it didn't look like she'd recovered as much as she let on. Bring her to the hospital! First I could try to go back home, but it was the time of the morning when people were going to school and to work. After seeing people walking around, she thought better of it. She must have been pretty embarrassed wearing only the towel. Going to Rika's house. The clothes should be there. What's wrong? Keiichi-san? Who noticed how I was hanging my head and spoke to me. Despite how he might have come off, Coach was an adult, alright? He would certainly not have killed himself after a petty fight with you, Keiichi-san. Please stop blaming yourself. First I thought it was a coincidence. With 3 people now, I couldn't discard the possibility. There was no such thing as impossible in this world. These past few days haven't made any sense. What hasn't? Sakura seems to be having trouble breathing, but she still tried to listen to what I have to say. Tatarigoroshi Festival before last night, went home on the way there, right? And I went there and had a lot of fun. That would seem. I do apologize for getting so upset with you about it. I remembered she blew up at me in the classroom yesterday, and if I said I actually didn't go to the festival at all, would you believe me? She looked at me confused. She couldn't help it, of course. Of course I wouldn't believe you. What are you talking about? You wouldn't, right? I don't believe it either. I mean, I didn't go to the festival, but everyone's saying I hung out with them there. Nobody would believe it, right? Are you being serious? Yeah. Ever since the night of Watagashi, everything's been messed up. These weird footsteps suddenly started following me everywhere. Blood drained for Sakura's expression. Footsteps following you. Yeah. I thought it was just my imagination at first. They stayed with me. They're probably still there. I can tell them apart now because of your footsteps, though. Kanako took a long and hard look at me. Maybe she was doubting my sanity. Coach did the same thing. I mean, why wouldn't he, after telling him this? The more I thought about it, the more I was unable to endure the feeling that my hatred for Coach had been meaningless. The day of Tatarigoroshi, I didn't go, I was doing something else. The whole time. I wasn't sleeping unconscious or anything. Not possible that I walked to the festival, half asleep and forgot about it afterwards. This is quite strange. Then how were you at the festival? That's what I mean. You didn't go to the festival. No. Can't let myself get emotional. Sorry about that. Ah, sorry. Well, nobody believes me, so yeah. If it was that, what you say, Keiichi-san, then I'll believe you. Then what? That night, I saw Takano-san, and it felt like she was looking down on me. I made a wish. I wish that she would die. Takano-san does have sort of air about her, doesn't she? Cannot say I don't understand how you feel. Do you know what Takano-san died? It happened yesterday. Apparently she was burned alive somewhere. That true? She died? I wished for her to die, and the next day she was dead. I wish for the police too. Do you know him? An annoying fat detective guy. I could nod a little. Heard from the police earlier, but apparently he went missing. And yesterday, actually, I wished that he would die. Is that all true? I'm not lying. I don't want to believe it either, but it's true. Takano-san, Coach, Oishi, none of them dead, and they all really died. For a little while, Senoko was at a loss. Oh, get her fucking clothes! A long silence ensued. Oh, what a scary story. Should be sure not to get on your bad side, Keiichi. That's not all. There's something else even stranger. It's about your uncle. I'd rather you not talk about my uncle. He was there yesterday, right? At your house. Will you please stop talking about him? Don't want to. It's impossible. He couldn't have been there. Let's stop talking about him. No. No. That man couldn't have been there after the night of Tatarigoroshi. Because I... No more, please. I killed him with my own hands. This guy stopped crying. Face was streaked with tears and stiffened even more as I looked at him. Not Higurashi, I killed your uncle. Is it possible that he could have gone back home? But still he went back. And last night he found fault with the dinner you made him, yelled all sorts of things at you and basically boiled to your bathtub. That couldn't possibly have happened. I want to make sure it actually killed him, so yesterday I went to dig up the corpse I buried. The body wasn't there. Is that even possible? Please stop venting. Fucking get her to the hospital or at least get her clothes. Either option. Don't do this right now. I need you. You fucking hell. And he went home like nothing happened, home to you, and that's what was supposed to happen, was it? Because the entire body stiffened, just shrinking away like there was someone in front of her about to hurt her. You probably think I've gone a little crazy, don't you? Don't blame you. I can't believe it myself. I think you're very confused for all the people you wish were more dead coincidentally and died, and you were just in shock, coach of suicide, and you're really upset. Think you should stay home from school today and rest. You'll be fine, so please take care of yourself. Nell spoke a little like she understood me, but she also told me to go home. I could see the revulsion in her face and knew that she didn't want to be around me anymore. Once I showed you the clinic, I'll go home. Your legs are shaking, aren't they? It would be terrible if you collapsed halfway there. Really, I'm fine now. I do not want to keep exposing myself to a man any more than this. Roll up the shrine stairs, looking like she's about to fall. Immediately ran up to her and helped her stay on the feet. She's gonna go crazy from that. Then Satoko promptly jumped away from me. Outer rejection hurt a lot. Once she got to the top of the stairs, her breathing was racked and she wasn't even looking at me. At this point, I was being ignored. Well, it was more like she didn't want to have anything to do with me. There was a feeling of rejection. That hurt my heart more than any blade could have. This was the path I chose for her sake. To treat it like this at the end of it, it was just so saddening. Don't be naive, Keiichi Mabara. You never wanted to be repaid in the first place. You didn't do this for Satoko's would thank you. You did it for Satoko would be happy. Then don't fucking trauma dump on her. And that was what led to this ending. Rika-chan's house was a disaster-preventing storehouse used for the council. If you went past it a little further, the shrine grounds you'd apparently reach the back of the assembly hall. Slugs were hanging there, walking quickly, the growl under her feet crunching as she went. Did she want to go there as soon as possible, or did she want to run away? I couldn't tell. Then I heard the vigorous sound of wings flapping. Turned around and saw a crow. I hadn't seen many crows since coming to Hinamizawa. Saw them a lot in my old town though. Garbage day, they'd flock to trash collection points, peck through the bags with their beaks, drag out the contents, and have a feast. I was remembering that. Saw a few crows flocking around the shrine's donation box. Oh no. And as I thought how terrible it was for someone to leave a garbage bag in a place like that, the cicadas quieted. Breathing stopped. Thoughts ceased. Even time came to a halt. Ran over to where the crows were flocking. Ran there in order to drive a horrible idea out of my mind. I definitely hadn't wanted this. There was no way I would ever wish for this, even by mistake. This was not. When they noticed my vicious approach, the crows all flapped upwards, fleeing to the sky. When the crows' big black bodies flew away, they exposed the garbage bag. Ah, what had I seen? Screams had escaped from the floor before I understood what I was looking at. What was this? Toko came over as well, realized something had happened, and she looked over my shoulder as she screamed as well. This wasn't. Garbage bag was crimson, dyed in flesh blood. Around arc, enough of the stupid random way of saying it. That's right, yes. It was Rika-chan, our friend Sadako's best friend. Always easygoing, clever as a cat, but so cute you couldn't hate her. Our friend Rika-chan, Rika-chan was stark naked. She was face up, limbs sprawled. Her eyes were a glass, just staring up into the sky. Rika, wah. Toko broke down crying on the spot, and yet she still couldn't approach her friend's remains. Crows had gotten through the garbage bag and they dragged out an apple peel and spread it all over. No, no. Crows, they couldn't do this. Ugh. On the spot, I started vomiting. The sour taste became a bitter one, and I threw up over and over. Rika-chan, she, her stomach was cut wide open, vertically, completely open. Rika! Crows wouldn't have done this. And from her open stomach, her organs, her bowels were dragged out like the children's toys left all over the floor. That unbelievable sight induced oxygen deprivation in my brain. All left my vision and a pounding headache, dizzy, and I wanted to vomit. It was like the nightmare remains of ceremonial killing. Someone somewhere had killed Rika-chan and brought her here, laid her here, limbs sprawled out, and then cut her open, her stomach, and dragged her intestines. Red and pink viscera were sticked out of her gut, and her intestines were scattered in every direction, like it had been for fun. The entire ground was coated in an ocean of red and black, and a few of the crows had hopped around inside that ocean. They walked around the sea of blood, leaving bloody footprints, and those footprints that were several still left on Rika-chan's body. And those sinister prints made it seem like even more like a bizarre ritual killing. Meiha wished for Sakura-san and Coach Enoishi to die. I didn't ever remember ever wishing for Rika-chan to die. Yes, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Found backwards and then stepped on a newspaper. Newspaper in a place like this? Newspaper was covering my hatchet. Kept it wrapped up on my belt in order to carry Satoko. Well, I know how this is now going to look like. That newspaper had fallen off. Jeez, don't scare me like that. Bent down to pick it up, and then Satoko looked at me with such disbelief that I'd never seen and froze. Just looking straight at me, at the hatchet, on my belt. Eek! Calm down, Satoko. This isn't what it looks like. Satoko, trembling madly, backed away. Wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't. Murderer! She didn't care at all that she was exposing herself with a towel. Just trembled and tried to step back from the demon in front of her. Satoko, please calm down. Please relax, Satoko. No! She ran away. Wait, please, Satoko, you're wrong. This is not it. The way she ran away, it was so weak, so slow. If I wanted to go after her, I could have caught her. But if I tried to grab Satoko's shoulder or something right now, she might actually go crazy. So I had to follow her and try to clear this up. Killed Takano-san and Coach. And Oishi-san, didn't you? You killed my uncle and then you killed Rika. You murderer! No, it wasn't me. I didn't kill her. What are you saying? You just said it yourself, did you not? You wanted them to die, and then everyone died, didn't you? No, I just wish that they were dead. They couldn't. You don't even remember what you did, do you? How can I trust a person like you? Didn't your memory of killing them just slip your mind? No, maybe you're only pretending to not remember. Besides, what is that hatchet for? Try explaining that. It's... See? H-san, you're a killer, aren't you? Why did you do it? You were a little mean, but you were fun and kind, and once I thought you might be my real Nini. Why did you run into this? I might have been able to slowly answer each one of the questions one at a time. The situation explaining my innocence in such a short period of time was impossible. I mean, I didn't even know if it was really innocent anyway. At the very least, I killed Satoko's uncle. There was no body, but I killed him. Without a doubt. At that point, I was far from innocent. And I wished for Takano, Coach, and Oishi were dead. And that curse of mine was granted. When I wished for Takano-san to die, I didn't think of it as anything more than a normal thing you say to someone you don't like. Then she actually did die. And then I realized if I wanted people to die, they would. And I'm hoping it would happen again. I cursed Coach and Oishi at the same fate. So even ignoring Takano-san's death, Coach's and Oishi's were completely premeditated crimes. Was I a killer just like Satoko said? I was unable to distinguish between illusion and reality and turned into a demon not remembering it. Becoming a killer who carried out Oishi-sama's curse. No, that couldn't be. It was impossible. Ah, damn it. The very word impossible was impossible in Himizawa right now. How many freaking times have I said the words these past 3 days? Sadako had started crying again and was walking unsteadily. First it felt like I was running, but now it was like she was walking away crying for someone bullying her. Why did things turn out this way? Why, Miller? If there was an answer to that, then I wanted to know it too. Why? Why had it turned out like this? After Nini went away, I was lonely for such a long time. Then Keiji-san transferred to school and everyone was happy again. It was fun again, every day was beautiful. Yeah, she was right. Those days were bright and beautiful. And yet, after that, Stoko and I shouted the exact same thing. How did it turn out like this? Skaz was sneering at the spectacle out a strange game of tag. Ah, shut up. Eventually I heard the murmuring of a stream. Getting to Rika's? Oh, she's jumping from the bridge, isn't she? The bridge appeared. Stoko was crossing dangerously wobbly as though she might fall at any moment, and then I stepped onto the bridge. It swayed a lot, caused Stoko to stagger and fall on the spot. Stoko, are you alright? Don't come near me, you murderer! Stoko shouted, her hatred made very clear. It was sad. Words could cut, then this swarm flowing from my eyes would have been blood for sure. Why did you turn out this way? Keiji-san, I really liked you. Wanted to go up to her and give her a hand. But the distance between us was uncrossable. If I got any closer, Sadako would start shouting again, and say things that would hurt me deeply again. So I couldn't approach any closer than this. Sadako, I don't know how things turned out with this either, but I can say this. I wasn't the one who killed Rika-chan. At least that is true. Please stop being so absurd. How do you expect me to believe that anything someone who couldn't even round his own memories has to say? I tightened my hands into the fists. True. This was mortifying. I wasn't crazy. Misawa was crazy. Ever since I wandered into it, lost on that one night. I'm not crazy. You're crazy. This insane world where I was on the festival when I wasn't, and the uncle I killed was alive. Where death would come just by wishing for it was this world's fault. Mio and Rena started acting strangely. They were possessed by something too, and Coach wouldn't believe anything I had to say. And even Satoko, who I should have protected, was yelling at me like this. Was the price of killing a man supposed to be this high? Was I really going to be forced to stay in a bitter world? I did the right thing. At least I wanted to. So then, why? I hated it every time I asked why the days Satoko and I enjoyed in peace went so wrong. Satoko, please believe me, I'm not a murderer. What's the hatchet for? Can you give me a convincing explanation for that? Is the hatchet scaring you? Okay, I'll throw it away. That's what you want, right? Sungo did not, but she seemed to be in agreement with that proposal. Clumsily took the hatchet out of my belt, then dropped it over the side of the bridge into the stream below. There it's gone. Now you listen to me, right? You think I'll let my guard down just because you got rid of your weapon? Keiji-san, you're strong. It would be easy for you to strangle me with your bare hands. Like hell I would ever want to kill Satoko. You idiot. Then what should I do? Should I put my hands on my head? Yes, why don't you? Please put your hands on your head and face the other way. It was a cunning plan, much like the ones she used during club activities. Putting my hands on my head and turning around would mean I couldn't attack Satoko very easily. Immediately acquiesced to her request, so it would make her feel better. She's either running away or pushing me off the bridge. Is this alright? At least listen to what I have to say. Snuggle stood up and then carefully approached me from behind. Then she actually came right up behind me. We were so close and yet so sad that I wasn't allowed to turn around. I don't think I understand. This isn't your fault, Keiji-san, huh? I think probably you have just been possessed by something evil. Until before, I thought Keiji-san was a killer, but now I know. Looking at your eyes, I could hear that Satoko was crying. Her voice was gentle, just like the same. Keiji-san could never kill anyone. Something simply possessed his body and made him do evil things. Was she speaking literally right now? Or was she trying to admonish me? I couldn't tell. Come to think of it, maybe. Maybe they were possessed just like Keiichi-san. At the time, I was only thinking I would be killed, so I didn't think about it. For now, understand. But now understand. That was the work of something evil that possessed you. Satoko? What are you? It was less that she was talking to me, more like she was talking to herself. She was confessing at my back. Understand, you know? It isn't like I haven't experienced it myself. Satoko's voice started to become mixed with sobs. The pain was torn at my heart, but I didn't know what Satoko was talking about. I climbed to the top of the ritual storehouse once. It was a few years ago. Once, when Satoko was playing at hide and seek at the shrine guards, she climbed onto the top of the storehouse for ritual implements, which everyone said not to go near and hit. Then Satoko saw that she could get in through the window, meant for ventilation. Satoko, the world curse was plenty scary, and she was more curious about what was inside the unknown storehouse. She moved the grating on the window, which was already hanging, slid her small body into it, and climbed down. It was too dark to see much, but descending she realized just how high she'd been. Despite the darkness, she could see a few things around her thanks to the faint light coming from the air window. And to her disappointment, it was just a regular old storehouse. She tried to leave, but the door was locked up right from the outside, and it was made to not open from within. She would have to go back to the ventilation window she'd come in from. The window was high on the wall, and there was no way she would be able to climb back up. Soko desperately tried to not cry and racked her brain thinking of a way to get up there. There were a lot of birdcage looking things hanging by the chains from the ceiling. She took the hanging chains and strung them along the wall. If she climbed up the bundle of chains, she might be able to climb to the small ventilation window. There was nothing else she could do, so she had to try. And try she did. It was dark and creepy, and she didn't want to stay there forever. The more she thought about that, the more she panicked. She climbed the bundle of chains. Soko could hear the clinks and clangs of everything creaking under her weight. And then, just as her head reached the window, one of the metal fixtures she used to stuck the chains on the wall flew off. Chains all began to pull loudly and furiously every which way. Spurred on by the sound behind her, she managed to get back onto the roof from the window. Because of the weight of the falling bundles of chains, the other fixtures broke. The one of the big bird cages hanging from the ceiling fell to the floor with a huge noise. Under it was an image of Higurashi-sama. His vessel, and the cage took off one of his arms, and then trapped some other implements beneath it. It didn't take very long for her to grow scared of what she'd done. A deafening noise could be heard from the rest of the shrine grounds. Few of the children heard it and gathered around. Of course, Yuka-chan was one of them. Then Yuka-chan's father, the shrine priest, with an angry look, ran over. And then, as to what happened next, was painful to remember. The only one who knew where Rika-chan's parents kept the key to the ritual storehouse was Rika. So he scolded her, saying that this happened because Rika pulled a prank and hid me in there. He was very angry and menacing. Just looking at him was enough to frighten anyone. He explored Rika-chan's back, took a strangely shaped ritual cane or something, and stuck her with it several times. Rika's words at the time, "It wasn't me, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." In that pitiful voice, I still couldn't get it out of my head. I should have said it was me. I should have said so to save my best friend from that false accusation while being afraid of Rika-chan's father's bad, terrible temper. Rika gritted her teeth and cried, and the crimes she didn't remember doing. Ever since then, the world had been strange. I know, I understand. This is Oshiya-sama's curse. His judgment for messing up the ritual storehouse, forsaking my best friend. Oshiya-sama's curse? My father and mother too, they vanished into the muddy stream. My mean aunt died too. Then Nini, who loved me more than anyone, ran away from home. And then Keiichi-san transformed in, and I thought I'd finally gotten a fun life back. But this time Keiichi-san was possessed. and even Rika got killed. There's something I heard once. Oshiro-sama, when he recurses someone, he doesn't kill them right away. What Shion said, Shion said last time. He goes in order to closest friends, and after killing them all, he kills that person last. It's okay, Chi-san, the curse got you too. I'm sure that Ren-san, Mion-san will be cursed next, and then they'll kill and be killed. No, no, no! Calm down, Sadako. There's no curse. Nobody's trying to torment you. When I turned around, I was thrust away with amazing force. Even my hands were awkwardly placed on my head. I couldn't take the fall and lost my balance. And I'd been pushed onto the bridge, but to the side. Towards the stream. No, this can't be happening. As a one last miracle, I was allowed to grab onto a cord hanging from the bridge. Far below me was the stream. We were pretty high up, and below were rocks of all sizes. If I fell, it clearly wouldn't be pretty. The entire bridge was tilting under my body weight. My frail little grip probably couldn't last another minute before my fingers had let go. Sadako! Sadako! I didn't understand myself. What I meant by shouting her name then was asking her to save me, asking her why she did this. Finally, everything came back into focus and I saw Sadako. I was surprised at what an odd expression she had. It was the first time I'd seen it. It was an expression of righteous anger meant only for those who needed to die. Die, you murderer. Give him back. Give back my Nini. Give back Rika and Mami and Keiichi-san. Wah. Wah. And she screamed. She jerked the bridge to and from. She didn't have to do that. Going to fall anyway. I won't lose to the likes of you. I won't lose to some stupid curse. I will never ever lose to you. You took everything. I will never lose to you. Not ever. Sadako, please just let me say one thing. I don't know what my face looked at the time. It seemed like it was enough to quell Sadako's agitation. I know that what I did isn't exactly praiseworthy. In fact, maybe I shouldn't have done it at all. I did it because I wanted you to be happy. Please just believe that. You're trauma dumping on her. At the very, very end, you're still pretending to be Keiichi-san. Sadako didn't seem to have any more desire to listen to what I had to say. For that to happen at the very end like this, it was tragic. I didn't do any of this so you would praise me. If I made you happy, that was all that mattered. You were nothing. Without your smile, we were nothing. So after disappearing, please smile. If you can get on with your new life by me dying, then please just smile. Can't you at least promise me that? Stop speaking! Don't use Keiichi-san's mouth like that! Fall down! Die! And those were the last words Sadako ever said to me. Those sad, tragic, altogether unrewarding words. What on earth was it? A desire to make Sadako happy ended up like this. Where did I first go wrong? And what was the mistake I made? When did I make it? Was I the crazy one or was it Hinamizawa? Even after all of this time, I thought I wasn't crazy at all. It was the eerie world that was crazy. This world I accidentally wandered into that one night. Because the fun world where I never doubted all the crazy times we had as a club would go on forever. It couldn't possibly have transformed into such an abnormal world. The fun world wouldn't have ever ended with this. Sadako pushing me to my death. In the end, I was going to be swallowed up by the crazy world and disappear. No, I probably already disappeared. Yes, probably. On the night of Tatarigoroshi. I'm sure that in the world I really belonged to, it vanished that night and everyone was worried. It was laughable that I had taken this long to figure out I wasn't around anymore. Ushio-sama's curse on the 5th year was Sadako's uncle dying and me disappearing. In the real world, Sadako had already been freed. Maybe my friends were all lamenting my disappearance and valiantly trying to get back on their feet. And even though they were down to 4 people, the club would reopen and they would have a good time without me, waiting for the day when I would come back. I'm sorry, everyone. I couldn't come back home. But this is what I wished for. It was my wish for Sadako's smile and my duty as a nini. At this point, there would be nobody left to torture you. Because Satoshi and I, it took 2 years, but we succeeded. That annoying toothy smile of yours, we wanted to see it. One more time. He's going to survive. My pain wasn't gentle or merciful. It was a sharp pain, violent, powerful, and ruthless. What a little compassion I had receded in the span of a moment. Now I could die. I could say goodbye to this insane world. Farewell, crazed Himizawa. Thanks for giving me the psychic powers to kill people whenever I wanted. If you still allowed it, I wish for one last thing. The death of this very world, of this crazed Hinamizawa. So nobody would ever again have to find themselves lost here again. Higurashi when they die. When they cry. I guess when they die actually applies here. Research notes. Why you there's another chapter? I guess we're not going to be from Keiichi's POV? Or is he surviving somehow? Guess we'll see. Urshiya-sama. Nobody really knows what characters to use to write Urshiya-sama. Knowing this is hard because, depending on the time period, he had been called with various titles with subtle changes to his name, and nobody knows the real one. The only thing all time periods agree on is that the 4 syllables Oya, Shi, and Ro are always used. There's a shrine of Yashiro dedicated to Oyashiro-sama itself becoming an object of worship. That people began calling it Oyashiro-sama, or Lord Honorable Shrine. This doesn't make a bit of sense. I don't know whether it was related to the people from Furuta family, the most suspected bloodline in terms of worship, or Shigasama actually inherited his blood. In the legend, the Furuta family passed down if for 8 generations in a row the firstborn child is a girl. The 8th daughter will be reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama. Interesting. That would be Rika? If you will, by those legends, the character used for Oyashiro-sama's name should be O for honorable, Ya for 8, and Shiro for generation. These character assignments are simply something I thought up. There is no way to verify it. If this is true, then Oyashiro-sama would have been named as such under the assumption he would come again. The second coming of the object of worship can be seen in several religions, so this isn't unusual. But a few of those religions call the second coming of the object of worship a day of judgment, or something along those lines. And we must not forget they mean it to the end of the world. Rika Furuta, pampered and loved dearly by the elderly folk in the village, the rumors say she's the 8th generation in Oyashiro-sama. I do not know the family tree of Furutas, but at the very least I can confirm that for the past 2 generations the first child has been a girl. Rika Furuta watches over Hinamizawa. If the village were to lose her protection, what would happen? Would peace between man and demon be lost? Would it once again create a hellish landscape where man-eating demons run rampant? A gruesome feast of demons who suddenly remembered how delicious the weak humans were, who could only cry, scream, and run for their lives. What would that look like? Just imagining it, it is enough to make my heart pound with excitement. Alright, I'll be honest, I am not the happiest with chapter 12. Felt more like misery porn than anything else. Because it really doesn't feel like Coach, possibly Oishi, Enrika had to die here. It feels less like there's a purpose to the deaths and more like it was done to surprise or evoke emotion. I'm not sure. Maybe there'll be more purpose later, but yeah. I don't know, it felt a bit forced to me. I kind of felt I kind of felt this last chapter too. Last episode, at the end, it felt like Ryukishi, the author, had a few really good stopping points, and then was like, and then more happened, and I'm like, oh no. And then he got it back together again, and then I was like, okay, this works. And then it was added more, and I was like, no. Specifically when I felt like it would have been so good if it ended after Mion's death. And then I felt terrible after the well, not Mion's death, but after the cellar scene in the previous one. Then I felt like kind of it was wasted after the Mion stab scene. Then after Ishii showed up and gave all the plot hooks, plot info, I was like, okay, this works really well again. And then I kind of felt again like it kind of ruined it with the ending, with the Mion ending sting. Well, not ruined, but ended on a sour note, I guess. And kind of feeling like, feels like there's only so much shock and horror before I'm like, all right, I get it. And only so much of Keiichi I can take before I'm like, okay, now you're just being ridiculous. And I feel like the end of the last chapter was already getting there. And now I'm already like, what the fuck are you even doing, dude? Maybe, and I'm kind of being arrogant, but saying this for someone who you actually does professional right. I feel like Ryukishi might not be the best at endings, at letting the story breathe. Well, Umineko kind of throws that out the window, but it kind of always has a set ending-ish. Now, even then, each ending is pretty good. It was left open to create more mystery, so to say. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm looking too much as a mystery here, when it's more horror? Hell, enough of that. Let's go to the final chapter. My head was pounding. The sky was bright. It was cold too. It hurt. Each sensation I felt led to a new and different one awakening. We survived when I came to us lying face first on a dry riverbed. A few body parts hurt a lot. The skin over a bunch of my joints was torn, turned blue or red, or oozing blood. I could tell it was my bones that were in pain from the agony I felt whenever I moved. I looked up and saw how high the bridge from where I had fallen was. Considering I dropped from there, it was a miracle that I could open my eyes again. Right next to me was a broken, upside-down car seat, which I guess some pranksters had brought here. Maybe this thing had been conveniently lying right under me, allowing me to escape instant death. Miraculous. Of course, I didn't know whether this miracle was fortunate or unfortunate. I'd failed to die and I was still stuck in the insane world. How long had I been unconscious for? The sun was high in the sky, so it looked like only 1 or 2 hours had passed. My body was sluggish, didn't make it feel at all like a short time had gone by. Mentally, it felt like I'd been asleep here for a decade. Ow, more feeling returned to my body, the more the pains flooded in. It hurt so much, it would have been better not to have woken up. I need to go get to a doctor. Yeah, the coach's clinic. Term coach's clinic brought memories back, one after another, memories I wish I hadn't recalled. Sadako was no longer on the bridge. She would have returned to Hinamizawa by now, and she would put on clothes and go to the clinic, get a checkup, and report on how crazy I had seemed. The police were waiting for me without a doubt. I have a lot of doubt on that fact. This time, they would find out for real that I'd killed my uncle and arrest me, or would they just send me to a mental institution like I thought they might? Still, I don't care which it was. Please someone stop all this pain. You can boil me or cook me after that, whatever you want. Began to walk unsteadily, just limping along. Went downstream and then through an animal trail-like path in the woods, walked haphazardly, searching for a path I knew. Eventually, I finally came across a familiar road and set off towards the clinic. Not to my house, but to the clinic, which had treated me like a lunatic. It was hot and humid. There was no wind and the air was stagnant. For a while, I've been smelling the terrible stench of burnt eggs. It made my face scrunch up. Taste of smell of burnt eggs. Is the whole village burning or something? And there's no way Satoko actually went to the clinic. I think she might already be gone. And then at last I noticed something. Couldn't hear any cicadas. It was the first time I'd heard Hinamizawa be so utterly silent. When I thought back, it seemed like birds always chirped in the morning, cicadas always cried loudly in the afternoon, Higurashi always rose up in the chorus in that evening, always something to hear. I couldn't hear a single insect. The only thing I could hear was the rustling of the wind brushing the treetops. I'd never experienced this sort of quiet before. Even the only sound coming from the trees lacked life somehow. The trees were yellow and many leaves were spread out on the ground despite it being too early for autumn. In the weeds that had been growing so persistently, the side of the road had yellowed, browned, and lost their vigor. Only the sunlight itself was the June Hinamizawa I knew, and yet it seemed like the season had switched all of a sudden. Looking at the fallen leaves and the rotting weeds led me to a spot a few small insects turned onto their back. They weren't moving. They were corpses. Look closer to see insect corpses scattered all around, like a child had collected them as samples and then threw them about. This stench, what was it? It's a terrible, like burned eggs. Combined with all the bugs and all the falling leaves from the trees in summer, that someone sprayed herbicides or pesticides around here. Even at school, we apparently fumigate, called pest disinfection or something, once or twice a year. You wish for the world to end? Ha 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 ha. I hadn't run into anybody despite how bright it was outside. It was the mid-afternoon and yet it felt like I was sauntering about at midnight. Well, with this smell, nobody would want to be walking around outside. So what was this anyway? There was no sound, no noise, not even a breath. Hinamizawa was silent. Weren't you going to the clinic? The school would come into my interview right after turning this corner, and yet I couldn't hear any commotion at all. None of the shouts or grunts the children always made. It was simply quiet. Just as pretending to ignore the silence had grown intolerable, I saw the school. Finally I heard something. It was the sound of a few trucks. There were a few very tall trucks parked in the schoolyard idling. 10 workers in raincoats were unloading things from the truck. It was hot and humid in the casual clothing. Could you imagine how unbearable that must have been? Then I remembered. A school was rented for the Forest Service field office building, wasn't it? It wasn't strange at all for the Forest Service trucks to be doing some kind of work in the schoolyard. Besides, what did the Forest Rangers do anyway? Felt bad for them having to work in such heat and with such stench about. Isn't it a school day? They're taking colorful cargo out of the truck and lining it up in the schoolyard. There were containers, fairly large ones, inside multicolored patchwork bags. Heavy too, they were being carried in pairs. They lined them up quickly, neatly, like tuna at a riverside fish market. Several dozen hundred of tuna were completely filling the fairly wide schoolyard up. Got my pain for a while, captured by this big forest ranger job I'd never seen before. Stood there watching our days. The people in raincoats working on the other side noticed me. One of them pointed me out and they shouted a few things back and forth. Thought they might yell at me for getting in their way, so I decided to leave post haste. But then 2 trucks drove up behind me. I stepped aside and they entered the schoolyard. Sheets covered the trucks, but I could tell they were completely full. Oh no. Is it bodies? As they passed, there was an awful smell that made me want to choke. It wasn't the same burnt egg smell as before, but an even worse one, like rotten crab meat. What on earth was it? I'd been enshrouded in one terrible stench after all day. Then suddenly, white letters emblazoned on the side of the truck caught my eye. Ground Self-Defense Force. Says, what? Self-defense forces like the army? Why was the army in the schoolyard? Hey you, where did you come from? Suddenly someone slapped me on the shoulder from behind. Turned around and a canopied SDF jeep was parked there. The SDF person had on a raincoat and a gas mask like in the movies, carrying a compressed air cylinder. It didn't look like normal, there wasn't an inch of exposed skin anywhere. Where did I... Ow. I tried to talk, a stretch a wound on my head. Made the SD people exchange glances. You could see their faces through the mask. They seemed surprised. You live in Himizawa? Can you tell us your name and address? Well, yes, I sort of live here. My name is Keiichi Mibara. Oh, and my address is Himizawa Village, Shishibone. After seeing me tell my name and address without a station, one of the SDF people watching from the jeep started tackling the radio. Base, do you read? Base, do you read? We have a 4-2 survivor discovered. Repeat. We have a 4-2 found. We found a survivor. He's in front of the Forest Service office. This base, we copy. Secure the survivor at once. What is his status? Healthy. Wounded all over, but not fatally. Can walk on his own. We'll send him to HQ for safety. Was prepared to go along with the police, but the SDF? I couldn't help but think it seemed a little bit much. They urged me into the back of the jeep, and then they told me to put on a gigantic gas mask. I did so, and one of the troops fiddled around with it, stripping it tightly to me. It was heavy, hard to see out of, hot and difficult to breathe. Just looking at the world through the lenses made it lose its sense of reality. My breathing sounded like some giant monster through the mask. At this point, I had no idea what was happening. With much trepidation, I asked the trooper adjusting my mask, excuse me, had something happened? Where were you? What were you doing? Hey, don't answer a question with more questions. I was the one asking you. I fell from the rope bridge way back in the mountains. I think I passed out on a riverbed. I don't actually know what day it is. Today is June 22nd, 1983, Wednesday. That surprised me. You could push me off the bridge on Tuesday. That meant I'd been asleep on the riverbed for an entire day. Forgive me for asking again, but did something happen? Why is the SDF here? Is this a drill? Had my questions been that difficult for him? None of the other troopers would answer me. The one in the driver's seat talking on his radio turned on the vehicles. He turned on the dial at some broadcast station, another came in. I had to listen to the voice the radio announcer was familiar with. Was conducted at the Prime Minister's office in regards to a question from the press. The SDF not responding to disaster promptly was directed right to the unprecedented, unheard of catastrophe. Chief Cabinet Secretary Okuno had this to say. And so I believe that once the SDF received the dispatch order from the prefecture governor, they responded promptly. According to him, the SDF were prompted to respond to the crisis after receiving the orders. Apparently, it was the prefecture's responsibility for taking too long to comprehend the situation. When the governor, who requested the SDF dispatch, actually came aware of the outbreak of such an unprecedented catastrophe, did he not invite further damage because of the time lost? He sent a request for disease relief. In other words, because of the bureaucracy, we were waiting further to investigate into the matter. This was Mr. Okuda reporting to the Prime Minister's office residence. At this point, we can take another look at the political response following the disaster. Middle of the night between June 21st and June 22nd, a large-scale disaster broke out in Himizawa Village, Shishibone. The details have not yet been investigated, but there was an eruption of a volcanic gas for someone in Himizawa Village. The gas was relatively heavy, and it spewed out, it began to flow. The flow went down along a small river, headed directly into Himizawa Village. For a few hours, it had covered the entire region. It happened in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. Every home and household in the village was afflicted. Most of the residents asleep, it is thought that they all died without noticing the crisis. The catastrophe striking the middle of the night caused its detection to become too late. There was still one small opportunity to have noticed it. 3 a.m. A news dealer shop in Okonomiya sent a vehicle carrying the morning newspaper to a branch office in Himizawa. Usually the shop would be contacted upon the vehicle's arrival. This morning that didn't happen. The news dealer's shop made repeated calls but got no response. Shopkeeper sent the elder son to check on things. They lost contact with him as well. It's extremely regrettable. If they had come to the police or fire department at this point, it's highly possible that the situation would have turned out more positively. At the very least, it is possible that a portion of the village might have been saved from the tragic annihilation. 6 a.m. Residents in areas in the same region began continuously calling 119 to report the smell of rotten eggs, dizziness, nausea, and headaches. Fire department received the same reports from all over the same confined region. They speculated a truck loaded with chemicals may have gotten into an accident and reported to the local police. 6:30 a.m. Contact was lost with a patrol car on duty in Himizawa area after the officer reported the smell of rotten eggs. The local police considered the possibility of a large-scale disaster involving highly lethal gas, reported to prefecture and prefecture police at 7:15. 8 a.m. The governor was traveling to a nearby prefecture for inspection, so in accordance with regulations, the prefecture environmental disaster prevention chief was provisionally escalated to the director general, set up a disaster countermeasure office. However, without contacting the governor, the countermeasures came too late. As has recently been pointed out by the citizen group, his journey with the honorary diet members to the inspection to the other prefectures was based solely on good relations. It's rumored they preoccupied themselves with a drinking party. Sources close to him claimed the governor had been drinking all night and had gone to sleep in a drunken state. He was completely drunk when the environmental chief phoned him up. Apparently, he could not get him to pay any attention to the matter. And so the authorities, in hours so it took for the governor to grasp the situation and sober up, did nothing but accumulate information. Not an extreme as the governor's case, the environmental chief, who became director general in the governor's absence, will likely also be questioned about his negligence. In addition, without any without any procedures in the place on the prefecture side that predicated catastrophes this massive, they would always react too late, and that ended up being fatal. On the advice of the prefecture police, the government requested a clear disaster relief mission from the SDF. By the time the chemical defense unit, equipped with proactive equipment, arrived on the scene, 8 hours had already passed since the incident outbreak. By the time the chemical defense unit, equipped with protective equipment, arrived on the scene, 8 hours had already passed since the incident outbreak. Whatever the case may be, it was unfortunate that this happened while everyone was sleeping in the middle of the night. Had the same disaster occurred during the day, it likely would have been entirely different. All households in Himizawa region were wiped out. There were over 1,000 victims. The SDF is still confirming the situation on the ground. The results are predicted to only increase the number. Here with us in the studio is Dr. Fujiwara, a professor at Bala University who is well acquainted with volcanic disasters. Doctor, and such a sudden horrible outburst of poisonous gas actually happen. It isn't all unusual for this to happen right around craters at least. In Japan, a volcanic nation has many active volcanoes. There's always a danger of a hazardous gas around any of those craters, and it is generally a rule amongst mountain climbers not to go near them. It doesn't mean rotten egg smell that visited Himizawa was the sort of gas from volcanic craters. Judging by how it smelled like rotten eggs, we think it was hydrogen sulfide, a gas seen particularly frequently in accidents compared to other volcanic gases. It is dense, it becomes extremely dangerous. Himizawa village is very far from the centers of volcanoes. Can hydrogen sulfide be generated even from a place not close to a crater? I don't know the details, so I can't say any country, but in other countries there are records of gas eruption due to magma buildup under hot springs. This is an extremely rare event, but it is possible for such a thing to happen in a region not near craters. I've actually heard about something similar to that. Thank you very much. We appear to have an announcement from the Japanese Defense Agency. Mr. Morikawa, are you there? Yes, I'm the Japanese Defense Agency. The agency has sent me to announce regarding the source of Himizawa village gas disaster. Analysis from the ground self-defense forces The Department of Chemistry found the gas was a mixture of carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide. Do you know whether the gas is still erupting or spreading to nearby areas? According to the SDF's 9th Division, we're currently engaged in a rescue operation in Mizawa village. The gas density is steadily decreasing. They announced that the damage will not spread. However, it does not change the fact that the surrounding areas are still in danger. This very strict observation must be maintained. That was Morikawa from the Japan Defense Agency. Now we have our report on the state of those who have been made to evacuate Okamiya area. Shinozaki Elementary School is one of the evacuation sites. We have our reporter on... Wait, what? Inside the jeep, clambering and bouncing around the rough road, none answered my muttered question. An unprecedented catastrophe had destroyed Hinamizawa in a single night. Where was Hinamizawa village anyway? Someplace deep in the mountains, right? Name of places I'd heard about on the radio were always like that. They were all places I'd never heard of, much less knew the locations of. Wiped out? What does that mean? Don't they usually say how many people and how many were injured? How many people were alive? Where did they want to evacuate to? Eventually we came into view of Coach's clinic. The first time I saw the flag of Japan hanging on the pole outside. Japan's circular sun hang down on the as though exhausted. Many SDF tents were set up in the clinic's big parking lot and many strict security vehicles were parked there as well. When they saw the jeep coming in, men in white clothing and gas masks came running out of the clinic, frantically carrying a stretcher. You're going to be alright. How did you feel? Do you feel? Can you walk? Yes. Because of my house, they forced me to lay down on a stretcher anyway. People who seemed like doctors were looking at me and notifying others of my condition via radio. Multiple wounds, high possibility of fractures, internal damage, large ulceration in the head. Pupils normal, but even without bleeding from the fetus, brain damage is still possible. Then from the clinic's entrance, people lying on the stretchers were brought outside to replace me. Judging by their clothing, they were from Hinamizawa. That's how I knew they were victims. They brought the stretchers in front of the truck. Two troops holding shoulders and legs, some kind of baggage, picked them up and threw them into the truck. What? Trunk of the people's bodies were piled in heaps. They're just like baggage, and told me they were already nothing but shells. In that moment, I remembered all the colorful sacks filling the trunks, and then lined up in the school like a fish market. Hundreds of empty shells. Corpses, 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 corpses. You jackasses, don't just throw the victims in like that. They lived here. Troops carrying the sacks answered a humble salute. The world didn't need the insane version of Hinamizawa. My final wish, again, was granted. I didn't understand anything anymore. None of it mattered. I wished, I cursed, and then it happened the next day. And then please tomorrow morning, let me die. The insane night is still going on. Please, please end it already. Hey, he lost consciousness. Shout his name. Quickly. Mabara-kun. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Blink. Mabara-kun. 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 Suddenly the world didn't matter to me anymore. I wasn't interested in their cries. Breathing stopped. Get his respiratory tract open. Do CPR. Make him live. Damn it, damn it. No more dead people. Who deserve to die. Don't kill him. Don't kill him. I heard the voice of men crying and screaming in my ears. Nobody deserves to die. Those words came from his heart. They were so commonplace, and they soaked into my heart too. Maybe it was a mistake to take someone's life, even if it was to save Satoko. If this is the price I had to pay, this horrible tragedy, then this is a little too much, Uroshige-sama. Why did you never punish me? No, don't think Satoko said something. Uroshige-sama's actual curse never goes to the first target at first. It kills everyone they loved before that. Ushio-sama's curse was a convenient excuse I told myself at the very end, that it wasn't my curse that destroyed it, or Ushio-sama's. Given that I was in a stretcher, this next bit might have been obvious. But last of all, I realized one thing. Yeah. Today, I had not heard those footsteps following me. Even once. And now I was liberated. As the cries of Higurashi I couldn't have been hearing filled my mind, the tearful ensemble was the only funeral march I had. June 22nd, 1983, early morning. A widespread disaster occurred in Himizawa village, Shishibone Prefecture. Volcanic gas erupted from Onigashima swamp over the Himizawa area's water sources and spread throughout the entire village. There was 1,200 victims, 25 gone missing. Catastrophe was unprecedented, forcing local governments to evacuate approximately 600,000 people. According to later investigation, magma pools and hot springs were uncovered directly under Onigashima swamp, and the gas that gushed from it was determined to be cause of the disaster. In addition, directly after the incident broke out, many came from claiming this disaster was a curse based on Himizawa village legends, first sparking a wave of chaos. There are apparently local legends of curse spreading a miasma destroying the village. Some scholars believe a similar gas disaster may have happened in the past and remain part of these legends. More extreme periodicals suggest that this was an extension of some string of freak deaths incidents that had been happening in recent years in Himizawa village, seeing interest in theories about the curse of Ushio-sama. In addition, relatives of Himizawa village who had escaped the disaster complained of sickness afterwards and were hospitalized. Some of them even died in unknown cases, further encouraging such extreme opinions. On top of that, several relatives professing to be possessed by Ushio-sama's curse committed suicide in strange ways. The impact the disaster has had on the entire nation can no longer be ignored. Wild visions of terrible toxic gas sneaking around in the middle of the night, killing people spilled across the country, causing a steady stream of people complaining of insomnia, difficulty breathing, headaches, dizziness, etc. Some who identified themselves as being obsessed by it began seeing odd things. Most of them were mistakenly attributed by tabloid press. But afterwards, some even began to call the mental issues rising from Himizawa targeting the Hinamizawa syndrome. In the Himizawa village region, the object of all kinds of rumors and speculation is currently closed off, and even a flying overhead is prohibited. The prohibition was at one point undone as a result of the decrease in the gas density, but that autumn another gas burst was confirmed, leading to the area being cordoned off again. Word is that the area is sound asleep, all traces of the former life intact and left to rot. Only one survivor remains, Keiichi Mebara, age blah, who lived at Himizawa village. At the time of rescue, he had some trouble breathing due to fluid buildup in his lungs, but as a result of life-saving procedures, he was kept alive. He is currently in general hospital somewhere in the prefecture. The press have been asking for him for some time, but all interviews are being refused. What did he see in Hinamizawa? What happened between June 21st and June 22nd in Hinamizawa village? Today he remains silent, unwilling to speak of it. Great Hinamizawa Disaster Memoriam List. Jiro Tomitaka, real name unknown. Possibly committed suicide. Mio Takano strangled to death. Rudio Oishi went missing. Katsuya Kumita went missing. Koyosuke Irie possibly committed suicide. Rike Furuta possibly murdered. And now the gas disaster list. Rena Ryugo, Mion Sonozaki, Oryu Sonozaki, Satoko Hojo, Teppei Hojo, Iro Mebara, Aiko Mebara, Daiki Tomita, Suguro Okamura, Rumiko Chie, Kichiro Kimiyoshi, Yuki Kazu Kameda, Tatsuyoshi Kasai died at the victim's hospital. Shion Sonozaki committed suicide at the victim's hospital. Keiichi Mebara attempted suicide in victim's hospital. Severe mental disorders. Makes sense? Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's some lorem ipsum between all of these, but oof. That's a doozy, but I actually like this ending. Actually quite like this. It is somewhat out of nowhere, but it fits with everything and ties it up. I actually feel better about this than that if he came back like a zombie and another murder spree happened, other people died and stuff like that. At least this feels like a painless death, so to say. That said, alright, apparently this can happen. A scenario is that everybody just dies. Again, this is not due to Keiichi. June XX 2003. An elderly couple living in Osaka Prefecture discovered a cassette tape while organizing the possession of their son, who passed away 8 years ago. The son went missing. His fishing boat capsized in 1995. He was 47 at the time of his death. 8 years later, in 2003, they had begun to organize their son's remains in order to organize their minds and came across the cassette tape in question. From 1975 to 1989, the Caesar experienced working as a journalist for photography periodical, and this tape is thought to have been created during that time. Label tape read 11/23/1983 Keiichi Mebara. It is though thought that the tape was recorded during the interview with Keiichi Mebara, the only survivor of the Great Hinamizawa disaster occurred in June of 1983. The only person who lived through the disaster of the night of June 21st. Tried a mystery, many interested parties attempted to question him. He never once spoke physically to anyone in a public space. Therefore, the tape caused quite a stir, possibly being an extremely high value. Click. It's really hard to talk about stuff when I know I'm being recorded. Please don't worry about it. It won't be a problem if I do this, right? After the sound quality dramatically decreases, did he comment on the recording device with something? Then let's get started. Here's my first question. Keiichi-kun, where were you during the night of the Great Disaster? I had gone behind the shrine, then took a path through the woods for a while. There's a rope bridge there. A little while before you get into the mountains. I filmed and lost consciousness. Did it happen during the night of the disaster between 21st and 2nd? No. I was in the morning of the 21st on Tuesday. Which means I woke up on the afternoon of the next day. I think I was out for a day and a half. Why on earth were you there? I mean, I'm sure everyone wants to know, but the bridge you fell from was on a weekday. Might add, quite far from both your house and your school, wasn't it? Speaking frankly, there are some who say you knew of the great disaster beforehand. From the road bridge as you were trying to flee from the village. This isn't a joke. Please don't be so arbitrary about this. I think it's a terrible thing to say to you. Please don't be offended. Anyway, about the rope bridge you fell from. It was right here on the map, right? Rope bridge beyond the back of the shrine and through the path to the woods. Probably. I never went there over there, so I can't say for sure. I guess you just wanted to know why you were out there. You'd never out somewhere you'd never been before on the weekday morning. Suddenly something happens like, Satoko, but she died the day before. And then, about the riverbed you fell unconscious on. Have you heard the rumors about it being impossible? Impossible? That word again. For a little while, Kichimabara mutters the word impossible several times. Why would it be impossible? You know that the volcanic gas originated from Onagafuji swamp. Those caused some pretty delicate investor simulations. Modeling discovered something very interesting. The volcanic gas was heavier than air. It went along the ground, flowing into the lower and lower places, kind of like this water does. With Onagafuji swamp as its source, they are able to test how much time it would take for the gas to erupt spread across the whole village. So, the riverbed you were unconscious on, gas it would have flowed down there. I don't really understand what you're getting at. In other words, if you were really trapped on the riverbed, you would have been in the middle of the toxic gas that was spread everywhere that night. That means there was no chance you could have passed out there. Allow me to be a little more frank. I think that maybe you might be telling a lie. During the Great Disaster, you were hiding in a safe place, keeping out for when the gas got thinner, then reappeared rescued by the SDF. How about that? Is that right on the mark? For a short time, the journalist pressed Keiichimabara further in a teasing way, but all that could be heard was Sevi's sighs. If that was the case, I wouldn't be surprised at this point. What do you mean, you wouldn't be surprised? Was the recorder really taken of Keiichimabara, so he Pablo speak? You said it before, didn't you? That it was impossible. Impossible things happen in Misawa all the time. There are people who shouldn't be existing. Dead people end up alive. It's not really that unusual. Never thought I, of all people, would be asked to prove